After any big tournament, you can always find threads discussing the outcome of a match and the developments throughout. Depending on how well versed you are in a specific game, you can decently gauge the skill level of an anonymous user on the internet based on how informed their contribution is to the discussion. A quick example would be someone being annoyed that a Counter-Strike team did not use all of their money on a certain round. That person will probably be new to the game and not yet understand the game's economy and concepts such as full buy, force, eco, and fully saving. People not being able to grasp the depth of a concept, or perhaps not even realizing it exists, restricts the individual's game plan to a much smaller pool of options, which leads them to choosing actions which don't really work. This is unless they're playing against people with the same lack of knowledge. Watching my mates mash buttons in each other's face seems like the best option for both of them because neither of them know about the different properties of different moves or how to even perform special attacks. Yet if you try this on someone who has spent a decent amount of time with the game, things become a little more skewed. This concept is highlighted in which some people think fighting games are just button mashing randomness, because to them, it most likely is. If we had a singular axis that quantified skill levels, we could place a novice here, someone with some skill here, and someone with a lot of skill here. If we were to ask a general player what they believe their skill level to be, it would not be shocking to find if they place themselves quite differently. If you labelled a second axis as perceived skill, David Dunning and Justin Kruger found that lower skilled individuals would place themselves much higher. Someone with a bit of skill would place themselves quite low, and even individuals located in the elite skill bracket would place themselves lower than they actually are. The scientists and me started compiling different surveys, but honestly it would be nigh impossible for me to get a realistic representation from players self-reporting since, well, it's the internet, so this piece will be based off anecdotal evidence and published work from the professionals in the field. You only have to peruse some forums on a game, scroll down your social media feeds, or even play a multiplayer game to witness the Dunning-Kruger effect in full force. Let me know if this rings a bell. You're playing a game like Dota, League, Overwatch, or something else. You're in an average MMR bracket figuring out the roles, and some guy chimes in saying that he's going to pick the high skill hero, and that he's going to stomp everyone in the game. And then he completely fucks up the game and blames it on everyone else. Now there can be a plethora of reasons why your teammate sucks at the game, but we're more interested in why, with such conviction, that they believed that they would stomp their enemies. Now maybe they had a bad game, sure, that's fair. But what happens if all they have is bad games? And they still hold true that they're the last hope for the team. It's especially interesting when you consider the fact that these games have MMR or ELO systems with their ranks out in the open. So, no offense to anyone, I mean I played League for the first time in nearly 10 years the other month and went 1-7, but if you're silver, you kinda suck. Now there is a fundamental difference for these games when compared to an RTS or a fighting game and the like, because they have teams. You can forever shift the blame to your team, and is a primary reason why people get stuck in low elo brackets for so long, because they don't ever look to improve, just to rationalize their losses. So even though these people are a low rank, they can still comfortably shield themselves from self-reflection and any criticism by blaming others. But what happens when you're playing Tekken and you just can't break that green rank ceiling? Well, you can't be bad because you're good. And I'm not saying green is bad because who cares, and one rank may be great for one kind of player, but not so much for another. But the people who have an extreme case of the Dunning-Kruger effect normally think they could give Top 8 Evo a run for its money, but they're not in Top 8 Evo, they're stuck in green rank. Now instead of coming to a conclusion that they aren't the best player, and they still have lots to learn, they default to excuses to wrap themselves in a comforting blanket of ignorance. Now, we're all guilty of some of this. There are annoying moves, and God knows there are connection problems. But if you play enough, you end up roughly where you should be. It's surprising to still hear people lose their minds thinking they're better than what the rank is telling them, because, well, you'd expect that kind of ignorance to form when you're playing a game without a ranking system. One of the greatest examples of the Dunning-Kruger effect in gaming comes in the form of the FGC's favourite game, Super Smash Bros. Melee for the Nintendo GameCube. It makes sense when you think about it. A game designed to be played by everyone went through a transformation into a competitive game. Yet if you weren't in the scene, you may think you're the bee's knees and one of the best in the world, only to find out that your plan of camping the turrets of Corneria with a gun may not be feasible. Now, this is more a lack of knowledge, as you don't know what the competition really is. But even to this day, you find people who are well aware of top level players thinking they know more. So it is pretty bleak, and to think that you may not be as great as you think, but with this acceptance, you can overcome the Dunning-Kruger effect and actually become great. There are two main things you need to do, at least in the realm of gaming. The first is to observe what a great player in your game actually does. Ideally, find one that explains the reasoning behind their actions. Because remember, if you're not up to the level, you may not understand why they do the actions that they perform. Like, why does a guy hold the site at this location? Why is he returning to base at this time? Or why is he using this kind of move in this scenario? If you watch great players, but don't understand why they perform their actions, it's almost very little use other than just for entertainment. That's why it's so important to watch not only great players, but also good players, at least for when you're a beginner, as you can take away intermediate strategies and apply them to your game plan. The most vital aspect though is find someone who can walk you through their thought process. And lucky for you, YouTube and Twitch will have thousands of people who will probably do that for you on a day-to-day basis. The second is for you to be open about your actual skill level and practice on those areas that you're lacking. You can have someone sit down with you and show you exactly what you're doing wrong, but if you don't take on board those criticisms and work on your gameplay, then nothing's gonna change. No one expects a beginner to be amazing, and everyone at the top knows how difficult it is to get there. In the end, the main thing is to have fun playing games. But maybe next time you think about typing up a storm to your favourite pro player about what they did wrong, see if you're doing so upon Mount Stupid.